You know that feeling? I mean, you were standing there in the grocery store, staring at the dairy section, and you are just faced with this massive wall of egg
Oh,
cartons.
yeah, it's totally overwhelming.
Right. And on the left side of the display, you have your like standard eggs for maybe $3 or $4 a dozen. And then directly to the right, demanding your attention with these idyllic little pasture scenes on the label, are the organic eggs sitting there for, $7 or $8.
Double the price usually.
Exactly. And you naturally assume the $8 eggs must be, I don't know, packed with significantly more vitamins, or that they represent some pinnacle of human nutrition. But what if the biggest difference in how those eggs actually taste tomorrow morning has absolutely nothing to do with the farming method
Yeah.
and everything to do with the fact that one carton might just be 2 weeks older than the other?
Yeah, it is a perfect example of how modern food marketing creates this instant decision paralysis.
Yeah.
I mean, we walk into a grocery store just wanting to make a simple breakfast, right?
Yeah, just trying to get some eggs.
Right. And suddenly we are forced to navigate this incredibly complex matrix of, well, agricultural economics, nutritional science, and ethical philosophy.
Hmm.
And we're usually armed with absolutely nothing but the buzzwords printed on the cardboard.
Which is exactly why we are doing this deep dive today.
Yeah.
We are taking the source material you provided to us, this highly detailed, really comprehensive dossier, breaking down the entire organic versus regular egg debate.
It's a great document, really thorough.
It really is. And our mission today is to cut straight through that pastoral marketing imagery. We're going to look at the biology, the supply chains, and the actual chemistry of the eggs themselves to find out if that organic premium is actually delivering what you think it is for your health, your values, and, your wallet.
And I think the goal here is clarity, not guilt. We are looking at the fundamental systems operating behind the carton.
Yeah.
Because once you understand the actual mechanisms of how these different agricultural models function, you can make a purchasing decision that accurately reflects what you actually want to achieve when you scan that barcode.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we even get into the nuances of, organic lipid profiles or pasture access, we have to establish the baseline of the physical product we're talking about. The sources are very clear that regardless of the sticker on the box, the egg itself is fundamentally an evolutionary marvel.
Oh, absolutely. We are talking about one of nature's most complete and dense delivery systems for human nutrition.
Yeah, it's crazy when you really think about it.
It is. It's essentially a self-contained biological capsule designed to support complex cellular growth. But the vast operational paths those eggs take to arrive at your local supermarket are fundamentally distinct.
Right.
The standard, which we call conventional eggs, forms the absolute backbone of dietary protein for millions of North American families. And that conventional system is, well, it's a marvel of logistical efficiency.
Because it's feeding so many people.
Exactly. It relies on highly controlled commercial farming systems designed to solve a massive societal problem: how to deliver a highly perishable, nutrient-dense protein to millions of households every single day without the supply chain completely collapsing.
And reading through the documentation on how these conventional systems operate, it is clear they are engineered almost entirely around scale and consistency.
Total consistency.
Yeah, the farmers are utilizing these precise computer-managed nutrition profiles for the hens, ensuring constant veterinary oversight, and running the whole operation through incredibly rigorous food safety protocols. It is a highly tuned industrial process.
It is. And, the word industrial often carries a pretty negative connotation in food spaces.
Right, for sure. People hear industrial and think of factories and smoke.
Right. But in this context, it simply means biological optimization. The conventional model relies on indoor, climate-controlled environments, specifically to eliminate variables.
Weather and stuff.
Weather, exactly. By controlling the temperature, the lighting, and the exact caloric and mineral intake of the flock, conventional farms protect the birds from predators, they isolate them from avian diseases carried by wild birds, and they ensure that the final product is both cheap to produce and remarkably safe to consume.
So, to understand what the organic label actually changes about that dynamic, we have to look at the strict physical requirements of the certification, because the sources highlight that organic isn't just about what farmers don't do, right?
Right.
It requires a completely parallel agricultural supply chain. If an egg is going to get that certified organic stamp, the hen has to eat certified organic feed.
Hmm.
That means the farm has to source grain that was grown without any synthetic pesticides or synthetic fertilizers, which is a massive logistical and financial
Oh,
hurdle.
it's a huge hurdle. It requires an entirely different agricultural ecosystem, and it extends deeply into the management of the flock itself. Like, organic standards prohibit the routine use of antibiotics.
Right.
Furthermore, organic certification mandates that the hens have access to the outdoors. So the entire philosophy shifts from how do we control every environmental variable to maximize yield to how do we manage a commercial flock while accommodating the natural evolutionary behaviors of the bird.
Okay, so synthesizing this into a framework we can visualize. I was thinking about this. The conventional farming system is essentially a highly optimized, high-speed public transit grid.
Okay, I like that.
Right. It uses a standardized fuel, it runs on an incredibly strict schedule, it is highly regulated for safety, and its primary purpose is to get millions of people to their destination reliably and affordably every single day.
Yeah.
But organic farming, looking at these rules, operates much more like a specialized scenic tour.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
It mandates a much more expensive, specialized type of fuel, the organic feed. It has rigid rules about the specific route it takes, and it legally requires that the passengers are allowed to get out and walk around outside during the trip.
Right, they have to get off the bus.
Exactly. Both models ultimately arrive at the exact same destination, an egg in a carton. But the underlying mechanics, the scale, and, the cost of the journey are entirely different.
That analogy perfectly captures the structural divide. The conventional transit grid is built for mass accessibility and shielding the system from external disruptions, while the scenic tour is built to satisfy a specific set of environmental and behavioral standards, just fully accepting the higher costs and operational friction that come with those rules.
But wait, I want to push back on a specific element of this system because this jumped out at me in the source material.
Sure. When is it?
You noted that conventional farms utilize veterinary care, but the organic standards specifically prohibit routine antibiotics. Doesn't that paradoxically mean conventional farming might actually be safer for the animal if an outbreak happens? Like, if I get a bacterial infection, I want targeted antibiotics. If a hen gets sick on an organic farm, are they just denied modern medicine to protect a label?
That is a really great question, and it is a critical distinction that frequently gets muddied in consumer marketing. The operative word in the organic regulation is routine.
Routine, okay.
Yeah. In many highly dense livestock systems, historically, antibiotics were administered prophylactically, meaning they were mixed into the feed continuously at subtherapeutic levels just to prevent disease from taking hold in crowded conditions or, to promote faster growth.
So treating them before they're even sick, just as an operational buffer?
Precisely. And that is precisely the practice organic standards aim to eliminate. The organic model relies on lower stocking densities, outdoor access, and overall management practices to keep the immune systems of the flock robust enough to handle the environment.
Okay.
However, conventional agriculture today allows for veterinary-approved treatments when a flock is actively facing a health crisis. The conventional model relies on the ability to swiftly intervene with medicine to protect the larger population.
Got it. So they aren't just denying them medicine. What's fascinating here is how these two systems are attempting to solve the exact same biological puzzle through completely different philosophies. Organic farming focuses on environmental resilience, reducing synthetic inputs, and allowing natural behavioral expressions. Conventional farming focuses on total environmental control, massive economic scale, and rapid medical intervention.
Exactly. And now that we understand the environments these animals live in, the tightly controlled indoor systems versus the outdoor accessible organic systems, the next logical step is analyzing how that specific lifestyle alters the physical chemistry of the egg.
Right, the actual food.
Right, because if a consumer is paying an 80% premium at the checkout counter, they're largely assuming that a different farm...
Let's look at the actual nutritional blueprint side by side because the sources paint a very clear picture of the baseline, and the baseline is just staggering. Regardless of whether that egg came from a standard commercial facility or a certified organic pasture, the core nutritional profile remains remarkably consistent.
It really does. Both options are delivering high-quality, highly bioavailable, complete protein. They both contain the full spectrum of essential amino acids that our bodies cannot synthesize on their own. They're both dense sources of vitamin B12 for nerve function, selenium for thyroid health, and vitamin D.
And the sources emphasize choline, which honestly doesn't get enough attention.
It really doesn't.
Toline is the biological building block for acetylcholine, the neurotransmitter heavily involved in memory, mood, and muscle control. A single egg, regular or organic, delivers a massive percentage of your daily requirement for that nutrient.
Yeah, the foundational biochemistry of the egg is dictated by the genetics of the bird, not the marketing label. The hen's biological imperative is to pack that shell with everything necessary to create life, which means the baseline nutrient density is virtually locked in.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because we all carry this psychological bias that organic must inherently mean superior health outcomes.
Sure.
And the research does indicate an organic edge. The source material points to studies showing that organic eggs often have a slightly different fatty acid profile, specifically higher levels of omega-3 fatty acids, along with slight bumps in certain antioxidants.
And the mechanism behind that shift is entirely diet-driven. When an organic hen is foraging outdoors, consuming varying types of vegetation, clover, and insects, the lipid profile of the yolk physically changes to reflect that varied intake, leading to those elevated omega-3s compared to a hen eating a strictly formulated corn and soy diet.
Makes sense.
But we have to rigorously contextualize the scale of that nutritional advantage. The primary word used across the nutritional literature to describe this difference is modest.
Modest. So we aren't talking about a massive, transformative leap in human health. It is not the difference between eating a leafy green vegetable and a piece of candy.
No, not at all. The microgram increase in omega-3s is scientifically measurable, but biologically negligible for the average person's overall dietary health. Unless an individual is consuming an extreme quantity of eggs daily, that modest increase is not going to replace the omega-3 intake you would get from, say, a single serving of salmon, nor is it going to radically alter cardiovascular outcomes.
Right.
The human body processing the amino acids from a conventional egg is getting the exact same fundamental building blocks as the body processing an organic egg.
I really want to frame this directly for you, the listener, because if your primary objective in the grocery store is simply to secure high-quality, bioavailable nutrition to feed yourself or your family, and you are working within a budget, conventional eggs are an objectively phenomenal choice.
They absolutely are.
You are not depriving your body of essential cognitive or muscular support by skipping the organic premium.
Exactly. The greatest health benefit comes from simply incorporating the food into a balanced diet, a benefit that remains fully accessible at the conventional price point.
So if the clinical health benefits are nearly identical, or at least only modestly different, we have to look at the sensory experience.
Oh, taste.
Yes, taste. Because a massive contingent of consumers swear that organic eggs simply taste better, that they have richer, deeper flavor profiles and those vibrant, dark orange yolks that look incredible in a frying pan.
Well, the sensory experience is deeply subjective, but the science behind egg flavor and appearance is highly objective. And according to the source material, the word organic printed on the cardboard has very little to do with the actual culinary performance of the egg inside.
The sources specifically call out the yolk color myth. We are conditioned to look at a dark orange yolk and think nutrient-dense organic farm, but the color of the yolk is dictated entirely by the presence of carotenoids in the hen's diet, right?
Exactly. If a conventional farmer decides to add marigold petal extract or specific types of corn to their standard feed mix, those conventional yolks will turn a brilliant dark orange.
Wait, really? Just marigold extract?
Yeah, it's just a pigment.
Yeah.
It is a visual metric, not a nutritional or certification metric. The actual flavor profile is influenced by the specific feed the hen consumes, but the absolute dominant factor dictating how an egg tastes and performs in a kitchen is the physical age of the egg and the storage conditions it has endured.
Okay, let's look at the chemistry of freshness. Why does an older egg taste or feel worse?
So as an egg sits, it physically degrades. The shell of an egg is highly porous.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's full of tiny holes. Over time, carbon dioxide slowly escapes through those pores and oxygen enters. This causes the internal pH of the egg to rise. As the pH shifts, the protein structures within the thick albumin of the egg white begin to break down and liquefy. The vitelline membrane, which is the delicate casing that holds the yolk together, weakens and stretches.
Which perfectly explains why when you crack a really fresh egg into a skillet, the white stays tight and thick and the yolk stands up like a dome.
Yes.
But when you crack an older egg, the white just spreads out into a massive thin puddle across the pan and the yolk breaks easily.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture of the grocery store supply chain, a highly fresh conventional egg from a commercial farm that utilizes incredibly rapid temperature-controlled distribution could easily provide a superior culinary experience compared to an organic egg that took longer to get through a smaller distribution network and has been sitting in the display case for 2 weeks.
That makes total sense.
Furthermore, because the shell is porous, like we said, an egg sitting in a refrigerator for weeks slowly absorbs ambient odors and flavors from the environment, which dramatically alters the subjective taste. Freshness is the ultimate equalizer.
Wow. That completely reorients the decision-making process. I mean, we have established that the baseline nutrition is largely identical, and we have established that the culinary experience is governed by diet and the physical degradation of the proteins over time, not the certification. So, if the physical product in the carton is so functionally similar, what is the consumer actually buying when they hand over that extra money for the organic label? We are moving away from the biochemistry of the food and entering the realm of agricultural philosophy.
Yeah, the premium price tag is essentially a funding mechanism for a specific type of agricultural system. For consumers who consistently choose organic, the deciding factor often has nothing to do with the modest nutritional bump or the yolk color. The deciding factor is animal welfare and the ethical framework of food production.
Because when you look closely at those organic standards we discussed earlier, they aren't just about feed. They mandate an environment that actively supports the psychological and evolutionary needs of the bird. Giving a hen access to the outdoors allows them to engage in natural foraging behaviors. It allows them to dust bathe, which is a critical natural instinct for maintaining their feathers and managing parasites. It provides exposure to natural sunlight and varied terrain.
Exactly. Purchasing organic is actively financing a system that prioritizes these behavioral requirements over maximum spatial efficiency. The consumer is absorbing the added operational costs, and we're talking about things like higher mortality rates that can sometimes come with outdoor predator exposure, the massive expense of certified organic grain, the larger land footprint required per bird. They are paying for all of that to ensure those enhanced welfare standards exist in the market.
So it transforms the purchase from a purely nutritional transaction into an ethical one.
Precisely.
You aren't necessarily buying a superior protein structure for your own body. You are buying a fundamentally different lived experience for the animal that produced it. You are voting with your wallet to support a specific vision of how humanity interacts with livestock.
And this raises an important question regarding the intersection of ethics and broad economic reality. While supporting enhanced animal welfare is a noble pursuit for those who can afford it, the conventional system exists precisely because a massive segment of the population requires access to cheap, dense nutrition.
Yeah, inflation and the cost of living are very real pressures. When a family is trying to stretch their grocery budget to cover the week, asking them to double their expenditure on a staple item like eggs just to support outdoor access for hens is, well, it's a profound financial request.
It's a huge request.
The conventional farming system, with all of its industrial optimization and indoor climate control, serves a vital democratic function. It ensures that high-quality, safe protein remains economically accessible to almost everyone, regardless of their income bracket.
Both agricultural models are responding to entirely different foundational pressures within society. One is engineered to guarantee mass food security and affordability. The other is engineered to provide a pathway for consumers to mandate natural practices and higher welfare standards.
So, what does this all mean? We started this deep dive standing in the aisle, frozen by the paradox of choice between the cheap foam cartons and the expensive pastoral labels. But looking at the actual biological and economic data, the choice is no longer confusing. It just requires you to identify your primary goal for the week's groceries.
Yeah, the data dictates that the right choice is entirely dependent on what you value most in that specific transaction.
If you place a high personal premium on ensuring the agricultural system uses certified organic feed, if you want to financially support outdoor access and natural behavioral expressions for livestock, and you have the budget to support those environmental standards, the organic carton is delivering exactly what you are paying for.
Exactly.
However, if your primary directive is affordability, accessibility, and securing a highly bioavailable source of essential amino acids and brain-supporting nutrients for your household, the conventional eggs are a spectacular, scientifically validated choice.
Neither choice represents a failure. You're securing phenomenal nutrition either way.
I want to address you directly on this point. Building a healthy diet is about making informed, sustainable choices. By understanding the actual supply chains, the biochemistry of the albumin and the yolk, and the economic realities of farming, you have already bypassed the marketing noise. You can confidently grab either carton knowing exactly what it represents without any of the checkout line guilt.
Because knowledge fundamentally changes the relationship we have with our food. But synthesizing all of this data leaves me with a final, slightly provocative thought to consider.
Oh, lay it on us.
If the physical nutritional difference between these two eggs is incredibly modest, yet the price difference is massive, it reveals a profound truth about the modern consumer. When we pay double for that carton of organic eggs, we are no longer just buying calories, we are buying a story, an ethical stance, and a sense of psychological comfort. But as agricultural technology rapidly advances, as conventional farms utilize AI to monitor flock health, optimize climate control, and perhaps eventually design indoor systems that perfectly replicate natural foraging behaviors at a massive affordable scale, will the organic label eventually become technologically obsolete? The next time you open an egg carton to look at those 12 perfect cells, ask yourself, are you feeding your biological engine or are you feeding your conscience?